Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing living in Thailand. And although I'm rather hesitant to ever editorialize, for lack of a better term, on this channel, this is something that I have noticed needs to be sort of addressed. And let me be clear, I don't wish to come off as condescending or as something of a know-it-all with respect to living in Thailand. Everyone has their own lifestyles. Different parts of Thailand are very different. They have very different paradigms. They have very different lifestyle choices. They have just a very different way of doing things. You know, what works in Bangkok is very different from what works in Phuket. What works in Phuket is very different than what works in Chiang Mai. Different people find different things about different regions to be both positive and negative. So I don't want this to come off as like some sort of comprehensive everything you need to know. That's not really my purpose for this video. But there is a certain paradigm that one needs to have if one plans to spend their foreseeable future in the kingdom. And what I mean to say is there comes a point, I believe, where one needs to decide if they are an expat, i.e. somebody who's spending a prolonged period of time away from their home country and may never return to their home country to live, but does not necessarily believe they're going to be living the rest of their days in the kingdom, versus somebody who at a certain point, I think a threshold is hit where it becomes rather obvious, or at least something to presume, which is that they are now an immigrant as opposed to an expat. And I can totally understand how people might not understand the difference between these two. Many people from Western countries tend to call themselves expats. Me personally, from about the third or fourth year here in Thailand, I rather started thinking of myself as an immigrant, not so much as an expat, because although I do return to my home country, Thailand is my home, again, at least for the foreseeable future. So I view myself as in more the vein of an immigrant as opposed to an expat. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an expat and there's nothing wrong with being an immigrant, but those two paradigms have different, there are different, in my opinion, there are different thought processes that flow from those paradigms. So if you come from the standpoint of being an expat, it's okay, you've got to deal with certain things, for example, pertaining to Thai immigration, or you may be taking up accommodation that is more temporary in nature. You may not be looking to buy a condo in Thailand. Instead, you may be looking to rent a serviced apartment for a prolonged period. You may not be looking to get into a long-term visa status akin to permanent residence or, for example, the elite card. Those may not be necessarily what an expat is going to be looking for. Meanwhile, somebody who is more in the quote-unquote immigrant mode, perhaps purchasing a condo or other real estate here in the kingdom, may be beneficial to that individual depending on their status. At the same time, getting into long-term immigration status may be a good idea for those individuals. The reason I bring this up is there seems to be a point with certain foreigners I've seen in the kingdom that immigrating snuck up on them. So they started out in an expat mindset and they ended up, as a practical matter, in an immigrant situation where they basically immigrated. Whether or not they truly believe or feel that they're going to live in Thailand forever, they've spent a prolonged period of time here. They may have built up business interests here. They may have built up family interests here. And as a result, they are now, they've planted roots either consciously or inadvertently. They've planted roots in the kingdom, and those roots compel them to need to remain. And at that point, it's, rather than maintaining one's status in year-on-year non-immigrant visa renewals, it may become more not only convenient, but it may become more appropriate, for lack of a better term, to get over into permanent residence, for example. So, or rather than, renting forever in the kingdom, it may become more prudent to go ahead and purchase a place to live. Again, everybody's lifestyle is different. The thing I want people to think about with this video is one can start off here in expat. I certainly did. I came out here for a year 12 years ago. So, you know, you can start off with your thinking one way, but I think what I have noticed has made many an expat / immigrant better off in terms of their own sort of peace of mind is understanding exactly what they are when the circumstances arise. So, you know, I've seen many expats that have been very happy. They've come and gone. They even come here for prolonged periods, but they still are in expat thinking mode. And I've seen many people that are in immigrant thinking mode. The problem I see is when people are actually in a certain, as a practical matter, they are an immigrant, for example, but they're still thinking like an expat. Or where they're an expat, but they're thinking like an immigrant. So you'll sometimes see people who haven't been here very long that are thinking about making sort of grand plans for the longer term. And it's like, well, maybe it's a good idea to just focus on the immediate problems at hand rather than years down the road. Conversely, that can also be turned on its head for folks who have been here a prolonged period of time, but still can't quite wrap their head around being in Thailand forever, or at least the foreseeable future. So those watching this video, the thing to take away from this, think about it. Sort of do an evaluation, probably on a yearly basis if you're living here. Am I an expat or am I an immigrant? I don't think there's a bright line at which, you know, this specific Tuesday into the following Wednesday, things changed. But there is a change. It tends to creep, and it's fact-based. It's based on one's own lifestyle choices. Everybody's going to be different. But the frequent reassessment of one's status and priorities in the kingdom, especially for expats and immigrants, is never a bad idea. We hope you found this video insightful. For those of you who are interested, we're trying to make videos to provide up-to-date information as soon as this information comes out. And for that reason, it may be a good idea to go ahead and click the bell button, the bell icon below, to go ahead and be updated as these videos come out, as you can go ahead and be apprised of the legal situation as it evolves.